What's going on, guys? Dave here at the Reef Aquarium shop in Indianapolis, Indiana. It is Monday, so we are live here on YouTube. If you want to catch us other days of the week as well, hop over to our Facebook page, and we go live over there every Thursday with fish room tours, kind of giving you a tour of the shop and the individual fish rooms. We kind of highlight what's there. And then while you're on our Facebook page, you can also see every Friday we post up a what's new stock list. So we post up all the saltwater, freshwater, corals, plants, everything. Well, mostly just the plants, maybe not so much corals, unless we're getting a specific shipment of corals in. But right now, a lot of our corals are actually coming from the farm, which is what we're calling our propagation facilities over here in the warehouse where I am broadcasting from. So that's fantastic. And we kind of just, we bring in a lot of different stuff from over here, and most of the time that just doesn't make it onto the list. So if you're looking for new corals, always just drop on by. And if you're coming in like even once or twice a week, you're still going to see something new in those troughs every time you come in. So that is very exciting. But we are right now, going live. This is an open Q&A. So should you have any questions of any sort, it doesn't have to just be about our topic, which today happens to be where is the best spot to put your tank. I want to talk about that because there's a lot of factors that actually go into that people don't realize, there's good spots and there's bad spots to stick your tank. So we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. But again, if you have any other questions, and I do see that I have some coming in, and I'm going to get to those in just a little bit after I get through my little opening spiel here. But welcome everybody. Hello. Brandon Charmer says, what's up? Hey. And then Lumberzack has a very good question that I will hit up first when we get off of this real quick. So, but real quick, I did just want to say that if you are new here, welcome first off, and go ahead and smash that subscribe button. And hit that bell notification. That's going to let you know every time we go live like this and every time we post new content, which I finally got a video other than a live stream up last week. So if you missed that, go check that out when we're done here. And yeah, good stuff. What's going on, Audrey? Everyone's jumping in on the comments. So I am going to go ahead and jump in on the comments, and we're just going to get right to this because, hey, we've actually got comments up front. So again, Q&A, got any questions, drop them in, and I will answer them just like this. Lumberzack says, I have very healthy water sprite. I bought it from you a couple months back. 15 plus offshoots now. That's awesome. Moved 2 6 to 8 inch plants to a different tank, and they've almost completely melted in a week. Any ideas why? Yes, I do have an idea why. Every tank in your house, no matter, even if it's in a different room, even if it's in the same room, but every tank, no matter what, is going to have a different water quality. Water Sprite is awesome because it has a super quick growth rate. But kind of in turn, it is a little weak to change. I've noticed. So even if it's a slight difference, I've seen Water Sprite almost completely melt away and then have to bounce back in that new environment. So as long as there's still green and the stem's not mushy, as long as you're still good, and you're eventually going to start getting some more offshoots and it's going to grow right back. But what we call that is melting. It's common in Water Sprite. It's common in a lot of the cryptocorn species you see, but and a few others for sure. A lot of stem plants are just definitely susceptible to melting just because they're typically thinner leafed, quicker growth rate. And like I said before, that tends to make them a little less strong against change. So for example, in contrast, you have like the super tank plant, Anubias. That's just a super slow grower, thick, meaty leaves, and you can just toss that in anything and it's going to grow just fine, and it shouldn't be affected by change. But that is probably what's going on there. Just let it do its thing. pull out the dead growth, well, not growth, but pull off the dead plant matter and wait for that new growth, and it should bounce back and be nice and hardy for you. Hansel agrees with Lumberjack, says my water sprite fell apart and died. I don't know why. I seem to kill every plant I have. Well, so there's definitely, water sprite is typically an easier plant, but like we've been talking about, sometimes it is real resistant to change. But if you let it melt off, it should bounce back. But a lot of plant keeping is really plant selection when it comes down to it. It doesn't necessarily matter so much of what kind of setup you have. And I always say this, but this is dangerous territory. Doesn't necessarily matter what specific setup you have. You can find different plants that are going to suit your tank. And of course, there's outside things like, if you've ever done certain treatments in the tank, then, or if you're doing salt in the tank, plants are typically not going to do well in that environment. Like if you've used like copper medications in the past, a lot of times that can hurt a planted tank. And if you're using freshwater aquarium salt, plants are not going to like that either. Some plants prefer soft water, some plants prefer hard water. So again, it's all about plant selection. So yeah, that's the main thing there. I am Zach. I am glad it's showing up in your main tank a lot. But hey, and then Hansel says, there you go. Java fern is a fantastic plant. And like I was saying, Anubias is a tank of a plant as well. So that's what I would recommend for almost any setup, really. Java ferns, Anubias, most of your cryptocorn species are fantastic for most situations. There's a few stem plants that do pretty well in just about anything as well. Bacopa will typically do well in most settings. I've noticed that Vallisneria will typically do well in most settings. Kabamba is a decent one as well. We've been talking about the water sprite, and there's a bunch of them out there that actually will still do well in just about any setup. But like we were talking about, especially with stem plants, a lot of those tend to do what we call melting, and they will just kind of wither away and have to regrow new in this different environment that they're in. Because even if, like I said, even if the tank is in the same room, there's going to be differences in your water quality, and some plants just need to do a reset to handle that. All right. Audrey says, I just managed to kill Java moss and Java fern, but now I'm trying water sprite. All right. Yeah, and sometimes a lot of this is, if you're not trying to do like specific setups and stuff, a lot of it's going to be trial and error for you. Because yeah, like they're saying, water sprite could work really well in one tank, and it's just not doing well in the other tank. And you could either dive in and investigate why, and maybe you should be doing some supplements. Maybe you're adding something into the tank that you shouldn't be, and the plants don't like that. Maybe you don't have the right water quality. And you can look into these things, and I recommend you look into these things. Know your water quality, test your water frequently, and research the things that you put into your tank beforehand. But even then, you can research the heck out of some of these plants. You think you have ideal conditions, you're going to stick it in, and you just fail miserably. It happens. A lot of this is trial and error. But let's see here. No more questions just yet. But if you do end up coming up with any questions, I treat this as an open Q&A. So drop those in the comments, and I will get to those when I see them. But I'm going to go ahead and jump into the topic I have kind of preset here. That way I have something to talk about, just in case there's no questions. Let's see here. What do I want? That's what I want. Oh, I guess I didn't talk about these things yet. All right, before we get into this topic, so I do want to talk about what's new at the shop. We are getting ready to go through some pretty big changes. We just got done with our end of year employee meeting. It was really cool, actually. For the first time, we actually did like employee of the year kind of thing. And it's like, okay, employee of the year, kind of, you know, okay, whatever. But it was actually pretty cool. And we're actually going to post a video up about some of the changes we will be making. So that should be coming out later this week. At the very latest, you should see that on our channel on Friday. So definitely check that out. We still have our Black Friday sales going on currently. If you want to learn more about those, we did a video about those, live streamed that, so you can check the main channel page for that. Or if you hop onto our Facebook page, TheReefIndy, you can see a list of all of our Black Friday deals that are going all the way through Christmas, right there listed out for you. So definitely check those out. They are worthwhile. We are getting very close. We are less than a week away from Christmas. Some people have been saying that it doesn't necessarily feel like it, and I kind of agree. But we make the most out of crummy situations, and I highly recommend getting all your friends and family a fish tank, as long as you think that they are going to be able to take care of those. Actually, that's what I'm doing for my family for this year. It was requested from one of my family members, so so they already know they're getting it, so this isn't going to spoil anything. They don't know exactly what they're getting, though. They've pointed out a few things to me that they want. They're not getting those things, and but I'm very excited to actually. This is the first time my family, outside of when I showed interest as a kid, like I was talking about last week. They were all for it. They got me this fish tank. Boom, boom, boom. They never really had an interest in it themselves. They did it for me. This is actually the first time any of my family members have shown an interest in, hey, that actually seems pretty cool. I kind of want a fish tank. So I'm elated. I'm so excited for this Christmas. But yeah. Check out those deals. And yeah, that's going to bring us into what is the best spot for your fish tank. And there's a lot of different factors that we want to consider. We want to consider ambient light. We want to consider temperature of the room. We want to consider, honestly, temperature is a huge factor, and there's a lot of different variables. You don't want to sit it next to like a heating vent, because that's going to fluctuate the temperature of your tank. If you sit it on on like an outside wall and not an inside wall, does that make sense to you? Like if you're outward facing wall, the tank is up against a wall that is, on the other side, it's outdoors. That can fluctuate your tank temperature. Being near a window not only can give you lots and lots of algae, that can fluctuate your temperature. So a lot of what we're thinking about when we're placing a tank in the home is temperature. And I figured, kind of backtracking a little bit, that this was going to be a really good topic for everyone, since hopefully everyone's going to get some new fish tanks for Christmas, and have a cool project. But with new fish tanks comes a little bit less space in your house, and you got to figure out exactly where to put these tanks. Obviously, smaller tanks are going to tend to be a little easier to find places to put than bigger tanks. But I'm going to go over some of my recommendations as to what you do want to be looking for and what you don't want when trying to find a spot for your tank. So like I was mentioning earlier, temperature is a huge factor in where you're placing your tank. An outward facing wall is not going to be ideal. The first thing I tell people is try to find an inward facing wall, an inside area of your house. If the other side of the wall is outdoors, then there's no extra barrier there. if you put it up against a wall that is, on the inside of your house, not that you're putting your tank outside, but that bodes a lot better and works a lot better for actually keeping a stable temperature. So that's the first thing that you want to pay attention to. The next thing you want to pay attention to is your heating and cooling. You don't want to sit a tank over or next to a heating vent because that will absolutely raise the temperature of your tank. Having heaters in your tank can obviously help you when your environment's getting colder. But if your tank is heating up because of a heat vent, you're not going to have a chiller on your tank, and so you're going to be jacking that temperature up on an occasional basis whenever it kicks on. So you're going to be fluctuating that temperature. So we definitely don't want that. So avoid that for sure. And then the next thing you want to pay attention to are windows. You don't want to put it in front of a window. That's a horrible idea. Again, because of temperature fluctuations. If it's against a window, that means it's on an outside wall. If it's next to a window, that also means it's on an outside wall. And that's what definitely one thing we want to avoid. Not only can having it in front of, next to, or relatively nearby a window fluctuate your temperature more, you're letting ambient light into your tank. And that is just going to make your algae explode in there. You're either going to get like just a bunch of green hair algae all over everything, or your whole water, all your water will turn green with that single cell green water algae. And that's a pain to deal with. A lot of people, that's like their only option to put a tank, maybe not even next to a window, but across from a window. Let's say it's not, in front or next to, it's on an inside wall in your house, but it's directly across from a window and getting direct sunlight. Even if it's not getting direct sunlight, a lot of ambient light can get through depending on proximity. So that's definitely something you want to pay attention to. So we have our temperature factors, and then with windows, we have both temperature and a lighting factor. Really, you don't want to, in most situations, run your light more than like 8 hours a day. I usually go 6 to 8, depending on what kind of tank it is. And timers help, but if you're getting extra light in your tank on top of your dome light, and it's just bad. It's gonna be bad. That's the first thing I ask is, hey, I'm having problems with algae. Do you get any ambient light? 9 times out of 10, it's yes. So we either have to like black out that window somehow, or B, move the tank entirely, which again, depending on the size and the other space available in your house, is easier said than done. So we want to scope that out before we even lay that down. And you're not going to have to run into the problem of, well, I've put my tank in the wrong spot. This isn't going to work. Now I've got to move it. That's just a huge pain because you've already done it once. And especially with a bigger tank, you got like anywhere, even if it's just like a 55 gallon, that's not necessarily a bigger tank, but you've just set this thing up like a month or two ago, then you realize that you're going to have way too much light, or your heat's fluctuating or something like that. Pre-plan where you're going to stick your tank. Speaking of bigger tanks, another thing we need to be concerned about is the weight of the water. Water, we're going to just say weighs around 8 pounds, depending on salt or fresh. But let's go ahead and err on, let's just call it 8. It's going to be different for both, slightly, but it matters. The weight of the water per gallon is 8 pounds. And so you're just going to multiply that by however many gallons you have. And that is just the water. That doesn't include the glass. That doesn't include the rocks or anything else in the tank. That is your water alone. So when you think about it, that is going to be a lot of weight. So For a larger tank, you're either going to want a concrete slab under you, or a reinforced floor. For, I usually say anything for a 55 gallon is usually the max that I'll go on joists, like, or a second floor, or, you know, something like that. That's usually the max I'm going to go. And you want to make sure that when you're placing the tank, that you're going against the floorboards, against the joists there. So you want as much wood and support under you as possible. So if your fish tank, here's your wall, is sitting here, you want your floorboards to be going this way, ideally, to support as much weight as possible. If you end up going the other way, you could end up with your floor and tank sagging, and that's not great. That just sounds bad, doesn't it? So yeah, you definitely want to consider weight when you're getting into bigger tanks, or even if you're getting into a lot of multiple tanks in the same room for us aquarium hoarders. That can put a strain on things as well. So yeah, definitely want to consider that. And a lot of what I've done, like, even people, if you're not on a concrete slab, and you don't have a basement, a lot of people have that crawl space, which is probably the easiest remedy, is having a crawl space. If you don't have a concrete slab, you can still do whatever size tank you want. You just got to get under your house and make sure you reinforce the spots where your tank is going to go. You can even do that if you have a basement. I did that in one of my old houses where I used to live. It was a real old house, and I put a 125 in there. And even with just a 125, I'd put 4x4s under it in the basement, going from floor all the way to floor, just to support the thing and make sure I didn't damage anything. So yeah. So those are the main things that you want to consider when trying to figure out where the heck you're going to put this brand new tank that you just got for Christmas, right? Let's go into the comments here, see if we've got anything. Tom was saying, goes back to what we were talking about earlier. And if you're just joining us, welcome. If you're new, smash that subscribe button and hit that bell notification. That's going to let you know every time we go live just like this, and every time we post new content. And if you're just joining us, go ahead and drop your questions in the comments. I like to treat these as an open Q&A. That's what we're here for. And then I usually have a topic I go on a spiel about, which I didn't necessarily last time, but it ended up just talking about myself and the hobby. So that was kind of cool, I guess. Was it cool for you guys? I don't know. It was okay for me. I felt a little weird about it. But if you enjoyed last week's, let me know in the comments. Guppy Grass, we were talking about this earlier. Sorry, tangent. Guppy Grass, we were talking about this in the beginning of the stream here, about different kinds of plants that were easy to just toss in just about any situation. And yeah, Tom, Guppy Grass is a fantastic starter plant, and you literally just toss it in your tank and it grows in the water column. And it's a stem plant. You can bury it and it will grow roots and stuff like that, and you can keep it that way. But usually, even if you try that, it kind of just ends up in your water column anyway. Neat plant though. And yeah, it did pretty well. Audrey was, I don't know if, is this, you talking about the Guppy Grass, Audrey, when you moved it and it all died? And we were also talking about earlier, you know, stem plants, specifically stem plants, can be pretty sensitive when you try to move them to a different tank. Best course of action for that is going to be just to let it be, remove the dead plant material, and as long as there's green on that thing, just wait, and it should bounce back and be perfectly healthy. And it's just gonna have to start from the beginning. Let's see here. Sorry, checking these comments here, seeing what's going on. Yeah. So actually, that's a good point. So I'm just going to jump into lumberzaks. This is going back to our kind of main topic for today. Lumberzak says I put 2 tens on a top shelf just above eye level, and the guppies keep to the bottom in the back of the tank where they can't be seen unless it's feeding time, of course. Absolutely, that happens every time. It's Murphy's Law. So, but yes, let's talk about small tanks, and that is a fantastic point. A lot of us tank hoarders will put like tanks on racks, and like you see behind me, which oddly enough, I don't have any fish tanks on here yet. The only thing I have running so far is the micropond, and if you want more information about the micropond, check out the micropond series that we're doing. If you're not watching this live, you're probably going to see a little banner pop up there. Click that link and you can check out the micropond. Pretty neat. But yeah, we usually have racks like this, and yeah, fish selection is key, especially on that top row. You want even if it's just above eye level, even mid-dwelling fish are going to be out of sight in that placement. So you actually want to, if you're going to do that and put it up tall, fish selection is going to be key for you. You want top dwellers. You want like Danios or Achilles would be great. Silby's half beaks would be neat in there, or something like that. But that tends to go over a lot better. You want bigger than a 10-gallon, but some African butterfly fish would be super cool to view in that way from above or below, because typically you view them from above, and that's how they look cool. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I can just show you. But the African butterfly fish. Oh goodness, I forgot that Bing is being stupid, but that's fine. We're gonna go into the images here. African butterfly fish are awesome. As you can see from above is where they're typically photographed the best here, because their fins look like butterfly wings, and they're pretty cool. And kind of here you can see a picture of it kind of from the above angle, and they're also a really neat fish from that angle as well. So again, fish selection as far as that goes is going to be key. But smaller tanks, they can kind of fit anywhere, but you still want to follow those same kind of rules that we kind of stated earlier about not putting it near vents, windows, inside walls, or sticking to inside walls. Don't put it on an outside wall, and all of that absolutely still applies. But like Lumberzak was pointing out, with smaller tanks comes more interesting placement. So yeah, if you want to get crazy like that and start sticking them up tall, think about your fish selection. All right. Excuse me. Ooh, Hansel S says, I'm cleaning out my garage and I'm thinking about putting a tank in. Is a cold water tank a good idea? Why not? I love cold water tanks. There's some really cool cold water fish that you can do out there. And not just like the goldfish. You've got like rainbow shiners and things of that nature that would be awesome in a colder water tank. Dojo loaches are super cool. And as well as a few others. But yeah, as long as it's not getting like excessively cold, you're going to want to, I would test your temperatures. If it's worth it to you, go ahead and set the tank up, fill it, leave it for like a week with a thermometer in there and see what your actual lows are. Or just stick a heater in there, but have it on that low end. Fish selection is obviously going to be key here. But sure, yeah, as long as you're in there enough, or as long as it's worth it for you to have something out there, and you're going to get enjoyment out of it, a cold water tank is great in places where it's going to be difficult to keep a tank warm. That was one of the factors for tank I recently set up down the street at Pursnips, cat grooming place down the street here. We just wanted to stick away from having to use heaters. So there's like 3 different tanks in there. All of them have completely different fish stocks, and they're all cold water. You could stick again, depending on how cold it gets, you can stick axolotls out there. That would be a cool axolotl tank. Yeah, it would be a fantastic idea as long as you're into it, and are going to be able to remember to do the maintenance on it. So remember, out of sight, out of mind. So, putting your tank somewhere more visible is going to make you want to do maintenance on it more typically. Just make sure you keep up with it. But yeah, that's fine. Cold water tanks are great. Some of my favorite tanks have been cold water tanks. Brandon Charmer says, I moved with my 55-gallon tank 6 times in 7 years. Do not recommend. Absolutely. We were talking about, even if it's just a 55-gallon tank, moving it is a pain. So make sure you stick it in the right spot, or, from the beginning. Now, sounds like you were actually just moving and not just moving the tank around the same house, which, I've been there. I traveled to a similar situation. I traveled to probably 5 different houses in 3 different states with a 75-gallon. It wasn't within, you know what? It was about 5 different houses in about 7 years or so. So similar with a 75-gallon, and it is such a pain to move with a tank. But I loved that tank, and I always reset it every time. When I moved it, especially on those 2 long hauls, I definitely gave my fish to friends, or brought them to my LFS that I got them from, and started new when I got there. But yeah, there were several times where I even just did the whole tank move and brought everything with me. If it's a longer haul, it's absolutely doable, but I just didn't want to stress those particular fish out at the time. Anyway, we digress. Oh goodness, yes, Hansel. I need to be more consistent with lighting. Sometimes I leave it 11 hours, other times 9 hours. Both of those time frames are too long. Timers are amazing. If you notice in most of my live streams, actually, of course, the one time I'm talking about timers, I flip my timer to constant, because usually if you're watching the live streams, my lights will kick off behind me that are powering my plants here, and that's how they only have a specific lighting frame. Mine is 8 hours here for my house plants. And they actually, I'm gone, 2-3 days a week here, depending on what I'm doing around the shop. And, that just keeps me going. And yeah, stick a timer on, and that will help you immensely. Especially if you're not, home, when you would want your on or off to start or end. That's key, because usually people want to have the tank lights on in the evenings when they're home, or maybe not in the evenings, but you want the lights on when you're home so that you can actually sit there and enjoy them. That's great. But like, let's say you have a planted tank. Maybe you get home, you flip the tank on, and you either go to bed with the tank light on, that's going to be on for quite a while, or you flip it off and it's only been like 4 or 5 hours and your plants aren't getting enough light. You need that to kick on before you ever get home. Stick a timer on it. That's my best piece of advice that I can give you, as far as helping you be consistent with lighting, is take it out of your hands. Because I'm the worst at that too. If I don't stick a timer on my tanks, I will leave those lights on for way too long every time. So yeah, Rob says, what's up, Rob Aquatics? How's it going? Audrey asks, anything good to get rid of algae growing on the aforementioned water sprite? 20 long tank, but heavily stocked with tetras since I had to take down a 60 that sprung a leak after wrecking the floor. Oh no, 60 leaking. That's bad news. Anyway, to answer the question, yeah, so it kind of depends on what kind of algae it is. It depends on how you want to go about it, Audrey. I typically, depending on the type of algae, am going to recommend some sort of organism, especially if it's only in a 20-gallon, snails or some sort of fish, a pleco or a bristlenose, or a Siamese algae eater. Maybe that's going to end up getting too big for that 20. But you can get one small, and I know you have multiple tanks. Well, I don't know about that 60 now. I don't know how many tanks do you have? So, but if it gets too big for a 20, or you plan on re-upgrading back to that 60, it'll be fine in there. But yeah, I would try that first, because I'm always a fan of going the natural way before I ever stick chemicals in it. But depending on what type of algae it is, then yeah, you could have to go, chemically on that. But what you do there is going to be dependent on what type it is. Let's see. Oh, and to clarify, the 20 long is filled with things from a heavy stocked 29. So yeah, you're pretty packed in there. And I mean, it might be also the excess of fish waste is going to be a major factor here as well. So really, it's just going to be pounding out those water changes. You can even I was going to tell you to shorten your water or your light cycle, but I changed my mind. 5 tanks running. Cool. So yeah, you got room to move that around if it gets too big, for sure. But yeah, try an organism first. But what I was going to say is, what was I going to say? Dang it. It's gone. All right. I was going to tell you something, but yes, do have your water changes. I was going to tell you to change your light cycle, but we're dealing with plants. Don't do that. What actually can help is, believe it or not, algae is a weak plant. What? For as much as it pains us all the time, it is a weak plant, and it's just out competing our other stuff for nutrients. It needs a much longer or a much more solid light cycle than like your other aquarium plants are going to need. So if you actually cut off your light using a timer would help, but you can obviously do this manually as well. But cut off your light cycle for about 30 minutes in the middle of it. So let's say if you're running a 6-hour cycle, run it 3 hours, shut it off for 30 minutes, run it 3 more hours. And then, just split it in the middle there or somewhere close to that. And that is actually going to deter a lot of strains of algae anyway from growing so voraciously. It's still going to grow, but that will actually inhibit its growth a little bit. So that's one thing to try for sure. Yes, Brandon Charmer says different states. That sounds so stressful. Yeah, I didn't. And again, I didn't move the fish through different states. I had the know-how to. I just didn't want to put them through that specific stress. And it wasn't really a great season to try to do it anyway. AKA it was cold. Audrey says, I moved 5 tanks from Baltimore to Illinois. I only lost my Tanganyikans. Never again. Oh goodness, you guys, moving tanks is a pain, especially larger tanks. I mean, even smaller tanks can be difficult at times, but for the most part, like let's say you got a little, even if it's a little 10-gallon, it's so easy to just pop apart, boom, move, set it back up, you're done. With those larger tanks, it can get a little difficult. Yeah. Let's see here. Doesn't look like I've got any more questions in the comments, so I'm going to ramble. If you're just joining us, welcome. Glad to have you. If you haven't done so yet, hit that subscribe button and that little bell notification as well. That's going to tell you every time we go live and every time we post new content. Speaking of which, by the very latest on Friday, I will have that new content that's going to be well, at least for us anyway, it was a pretty big announcement at our end of year employee meeting. And so we are going to talk about that later in the week. So look forward to that. Also, if you're new here, check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We post different content on those on at least 5 or 6 times a week anyway, on each platform. So you've always got new, fresh content, regardless of where you're getting it from. So I recommend us following us on all of the above because it's something different every time. I am now going to show you some new products on the website. If you're unfamiliar, or if you didn't know, we have a website. Go to TheReefIndy.com. And why is my... and at TheReefIndy.com, which is right here, you can actually find our in-stock list. This is one of my personal favorite features in here. We update that every Friday. Last time it was updated was the 18th. And this is not even our entire stock in the store, even though these lists tend to be pretty dang big most weeks. This is definitely not our entire stock. This is just what we got in for that week. So again, always updated on Fridays, usually by 2 o'clock, but sometimes you can catch us before that. And we will always remind you on Facebook and post a link every Friday directly to the in-stock. And you can also book a service through us and our shop. Ta-da! Right now, free shipping on orders over $200. I guess I can pop up here too. Free shipping on all orders over $200, which is fantastic. And we are getting more and more products up here by the week. There was by this evening I may even have some more products loaded. I'm not me particularly. I'm not the one who is working on our website. That would be our general manager Brandon. He's the one that has been putting so much work into this. He's doing an amazing job. It looks awesome. But yeah, we've got it broken down into different sections. You can check out the gifts and merch. This is what's actually new as of the last time I showed this to you guys, which was probably last week. But we just got our some of our own merch up there. Our hats are now purchase those and get them sent to you. Yay! And you can also see there we've got the gift certificates. Those are still only good for the physical store. You can't use those online just yet. But they are available that way. You can actually just send someone a gift certificate. Fantastic stuff. And of course, we have our Neptune systems all available here online. And one of our newest was the Bashi line that we stuck up here. And we are super excited to have the Smart Series up here, and we are about to be launching our Reef Unique. What's the actual term I'm looking for? But specifically just for us, a Reef Exclusive. Exclusive, that's what I'm looking for. We will have plug-and-play sets, which you can only get through us, which just comes with all the pumps you need for all the recommended pumps and everything like that. Reason they would typically not come with them before is because a lot of people like to just get them themselves because of the different factors involved, like head pressure and placement and things of that nature. But these will be plug and play units that will be available soon, not quite yet. but that's going to be one of the next things we are working on. Another thing we are working on getting in the shop really soon is aquatop canisters. Those are probably going to be going up there, like I said, later tonight, if not tomorrow or the next day. It just depends on a few different factors, as usual. And while I'm over here, let's show you, not this one, careers is what I'm going for. We are always taking applications. If you would like to shoot us an application, just jump online, go to TheReefIndy.com, and ta-da, there it is. Yeah, that's it for the website. That's all the new stuff anyway. Like I said, more stuff being added on a very frequent basis. So very exciting stuff coming up on the website soon. Yeah, let's see here. Doesn't look like we actually got any more new comments, so I think I'm going to call that a wrap for this live. Thanks for hanging out with us. You guys have been real talkative today, and I super appreciate that. It's always a little more difficult, even if I do have like a pre-planned topic. It's always more difficult to do these kind of things when I'm actually not when I'm not like talking with you guys. I excel most in conversations. So, and again, that's why I really want to start getting guests on here, which again is hopefully going to be happening starting in January next month in the new year. I am may not happen like the very first week or two, but I'm getting things lined up to actually have guests and stuff like that. So exciting stuff. But again, thanks everyone for hanging out. It's been a blast. If you have not done so yet, please hit I always do the wrong side. Please hit that subscribe button and that bell notification. It lets you know every time we go live. If you want to see more of us, we are check out the rest of our videos here on YouTube. Also, we are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And I'm thinking about jumping on some other platforms. If you have any recommendations, like you've been sitting on like TikTok or like, I don't know, Snapchat, or other people other than gamers are doing like Twitch channels now. I don't know. If you feel like you're missing our presence somewhere, let me know in the comments and I'll think about it anyway. Just been exploring different options there, but yeah. Yeah, let me know. Let me know what you think. I always appreciate your feedback. And if you want me to do certain topics, actually, who was it? Someone, I don't know if you're watching right now, but someone was actually asking me specifically in the comments to do a saltwater setup, you know, kind of a beginner's type setup, because they're interested in getting into it, but just haven't had the chance to jump into it, or just are a little nervous about jumping into it. And I can absolutely help with that. And that is going to be one of my main priorities is for this coming year, is to get a saltwater setup up and going and showing it to you guys step by step, just like I did with the Sea View. However, on this one, we probably won't be giving away. It's the plan so far is for it to stay here and sit behind me on this side. And that way I can have something to give you more frequent saltwater content. That's one thing that I really want to get out there a little more, because a lot of you have been expressing your interest in saltwater and wanting to jump into it and just needing more information, or being afraid it's, you know, it's rocket science, or it's going to be too expensive. And I just want to debunk all that for you. Yeah, it can be rocket science. It can be expensive, but it doesn't have to be. And I'm going to show you that. But again, I want to be able to continually show you different aspects of this as I build it and as I go along. So I'm not going to give away that one, or that's not the plan yet anyway. But we are planning more giveaways for 2021 as well. So that is something else to definitely be looking forward to. I got some more comments. Let's hang out. Do we get a Twitch channel streaming the Altums? I have really bad news. We've lost most of the Altums. So even with our preventative, Altums can be very, very touchy. And they just didn't handle the move well, apparently. A lot of them ended up with a fungal, which, don't freak out on the source, because this is just commonly known. You want to treat them for a myriad of different things before actually just sticking them in your tank like we did. Because as much as we harp about quarantine, we don't really have, we didn't have a setup specifically for Altums in quarantine, but we were willing to medicate that entire tank with our slurry. So, but they didn't stick. We might still end up with that pair. Or is there like 2 or 3? There's a few still left, but we are rethinking that, and I'm going to be talking about that later this week when I go live on Facebook as well. So I guess don't look forward to that, because it's not great. It's sad, but it is pretty common. Yes, that is correct. Hansel says, I want to see THR monster fish. Here, those are hard to keep. Yeah, sure. There are plenty of monster fish that are perfectly doable in certain situations that are absolutely attainable to general aquarists. But there are certainly plenty of things that are way too common in the fish market, or the aquarium hobby, in the fish market. In the aquarium hobby, that really shouldn't be there, and you'll obviously never find in our store. Pacus, red-tailed cats, usually iridescent sharks. Now, if you can show me your tropical pond, which we do have several customers who have just put in pools, like you see at Ohio, maybe not this scale. I've not seen anyone local to this scale yet. If you have one of these, let me know. If you've converted a pool, an actual like in-ground pool, into a pond, like you see on like Ohio Fish Rescue. But like some of our customers have done the smaller scale version of that and set up above ground pools to keep monster fish in. And sure, if you're willing to keep fish like that and go for it and do it properly in a proper amount of water, yeah, we'll special order some crazy fish for you, but still probably won't be a red tail. Let's see, anyone else? Those saltwater aquariums holding my bank hostage. Look, again, it doesn't. You can. There's ways about it. You can in this goes for freshwater too. You can spend a lot of money on some freshwater tanks, and you can spend just as much money on a freshwater tank as you spend on a saltwater tank. I guarantee you. It's pretty easy to do, in fact. When you start getting into like CO2 systems and really, really good lighting, and different features on it, there's a lot of money you can spend on a freshwater tank as well. Yeah, there's more stuff like equipment wise that you can drop some bank on in saltwater, but they're getting there with fresh as well, like these monitoring systems and things like that. I know a few companies are working on freshwater monitoring systems specifically for freshwater, or that are a little more compatible with salt and fresh, going either way. But I mean, even with there's plenty of Neptune stuff that you can run on a freshwater tank. But yeah. There's a lot of stuff coming out pretty soon in the next year or 5 that is going to just revolutionize the aquarium hobby, and I'm excited for that kind of stuff. But we'll have to wait and see what actually happens and what actually comes out. Good stuff. Really, Audrey says, my mother has a 600-gallon indoor pond in the basement for koi. Was a red-tail cat pond while my dad was alive. I believe, look, if you've got a 600-gallon indoor pond, yeah, sure. You might have space for a hefty catfish like that. That's a dream of mine too, is when, one day in my dream future, when I'm building my own house, it's going to have an indoor pond, indoor koi pond specifically. It's not going to be a tropical pond. I'm going to do a koi pond inside. It's in my brain. I'm going to do it. I've set my mind to it. It's happening. But yeah, all right. Again, guys, I'm always game to get caught up and just continue talking. But it looks like we don't have any more questions, so I'm going to call it a night for us. You should be able to jump onto another channel or two and keep the fishy vibes going. A lot of people going live out there, so check out all of those fish tubers out there and give them some support and some love. Be sure to give us some support and some love, and we'll see you next time. I super appreciate you guys. You're awesome.